Welcome to the Great Awakening Ministry. I am Minister and Yogini Joanne Lee. And on this week's show, back again, we have Justin Carpenter. Justin is a heartfelt spiritual man who shares his divine truth and sacred wisdom about Christ consciousness within and our awakening world on his Telegram chat, Facebook, website, and YouTube channel. He is involved with the Foxhole Foundation, which is a charitable organization committed to providing assistance worldwide for disaster relief efforts and supporting America's veterans. They strive to make a meaningful impact in the lives of those paths that they cross, whether it's responding to natural disasters or honoring the sacrifices of military heroes. Recently, they gave $13,000 directly into the hands of the victims of Hurricane Helene. And in this show, we discuss the golden age is coming, how the planets are alive, and how the age of Aquarius is here now.
UK Health Radio, the station that makes you feel good.
I just want to say, Justin, my spiritual friend, welcome back to the Great Awakening show.
Thank you so much, Joanne. It's always such a pleasure to be here, and I have such a great time every time. So looking forward to this one.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. And what a time we are in, because, you know, as the show says, we are in the greatest awakening this world has ever known. And it's the beginning of the age of Aquarius, the golden age. Yeah. And please tell us your view on this incredible shift in consciousness and the evolution of humanity and this golden age that we are all heading into. How do you see this?
Well, I mean, it depends on how you want to look at it, but it's literally the greatest evolutionary time in perhaps the history of consciousness. You know, we're going in this roughly 25,000 year cycle. We're going through this great year evolutionary period, and we're moving, if you want to view it as a great year, if you want to view it as the seasons, we're moving out of winter into spring. So we're moving from the darkest of night into the brightest of mornings. So it's a beautiful time period as we shift through this, and we're seeing this unfold in countless number of ways as people are starting to realize that, oh yes, we've been in the dark ages. You know, the dark ages didn't happen a long time ago. They were here right now, just moments ago, and we're moving out of these dark ages back into the light. So it's transformational. We can feel it in every sense of the way. But as a part of that, the darkness doesn't really like to let go of control. So we're seeing a sort of last ditch effort to sort of grasp onto that, and that's happening not only in the the earth-wide scale, but also within each of us. So those of us who have shadow work and things to address, that's coming up to the surface. So this truly is revelation. This is the time of prophecy, because everything is being revealed as we're moving into this next era, this next age, where we can truly manifest heaven on earth.
That was so beautiful, and it's so true. And what you said about, you know, humanity has been in the dark. It's because this is actually, it's so true, because it's a 2,000 year darkness of the zodiac of Pisces that humanity's been going through, which has been dominated by masculine rule and the belief in a savior outside of ourselves, as, you know, like a guru will save us, or a political party will save us, or a religion will save us, or as God, goddess is outside of us, you know. Tell us about that, because this darkness is really, and I know that it's been very, very, of course, for the divine feminine, but this, for 2,000 years, that's what the darkness has been.
Yes, exactly. I mean, you said it well. It is this this lie pushed onto us, or we start to just believe these things where power is externalized, where we somehow put the divinity in something else outside of us. And even the stories of Yeshua, the Christed message, are showing this what his message truly was to recognize that this power was within, that we all have that God goddess power within ourselves. But what society loves to do and what these religious institutions love to do is take these beautiful messages and distort them into these ways where, oh no, you have to worship this externalized savior. So you actually negate the actual teachings of Yeshua, and you turn them into this message that it's all about worshiping him and putting him on a pedestal and that he's going to come and save you.
Yeah.
Whereas that's not what he was speaking about. That's not what Mary Magdalene was speaking about. They were talking about this divine essence is within you, and you're to activate it. You're to step into, and that's why he said, "You shall do greater things than I." So we're here to remember that. We've all been there before. There's nothing new under the sun. We've been constantly doing this evolutionary cycle from falling to rising to falling to rising. So we've been through the rise before. We've been in our Christed self before, but somehow, somewhere along the way, we forgot. Somewhere along the way, we forgot who we were. We forgot our power within, and we started giving away to something in the external. So it is important to reclaim that.
That's right. That's right. Because, now we are in the 2000-year cycle of the zodiac of Aquarius, which is about the I am. I am. And the God goddess, the inner guru, the inner Buddha, the God goddess within, and as it says in Jesus, in Mary Magdalene's gospel, you save yourself. This is the era of us saving ourselves and us knowing ourselves as the divine flame within, which is in, it's the same soul consciousness within every single consciousness. And this always gets me, because this is how goddess is omnipresent, right? Because it's the soul consciousness throughout the world in every living being. This is how God experiences through us, so we can use it for good or for evil to express that power, that divine flame, that divinity that God goddess has bestowed upon us, And so please tell us of this light and dark, and of the rising of the feminine to be in balance with the divine masculine, and to bring unity, consciousness, and love awareness in this world.
Yeah, well, this is a duality, and often there's a misconception that we're supposed to get away from the duality, but no, we're actually here to embrace all layers of this duality. So there is light and there is darkness, and both of them are you, both of them are God. God is everything and nothing. So it is the totality and the nothingness all together. So we've been in an era that's been dominated by the darkness. We've been in an era that has been where there's been much subjugation, taking advantage of, and that's all part of us. So we're here to recognize that those layers of us do exist, but we're not here to negate them or to push them away, but to actually heal them. To say what exists within me that creates the possibility of taking advantage of somebody else. Where am I falling into this sense of separation that I'm viewing some other part of me, because there is no separation, but how am I falling into that trap? That separation is absolute. So how can I bring back that connection point? And as you mentioned, the divine feminine is all about connection. She is that foundation of connection. So these institutions have done a very diligent job at removing every aspect of the divine feminine, because that's removing every layer of connection, every layer of compassion. So when we bring that compassion back into it, and we recognize that there's nothing wrong with a sense of separation, there's nothing wrong with the ego, because that's what allows this experience to exist. That's what allows me to have this identity. But I don't need to let this identity run the show. I don't need to allow this sense of separation to dominate my sense of connection. When I come back to the connection as the foundation, and that's what Jesus was talking about, where you build your house on the solid rock. Because when we build our house on the connection, it's as solid as anything. It's the most solid thing in all of creation, because that connection is absolute. So when we come back to that, then there's no way that I could ever bring harm to myself or to any other layer of consciousness, because it's all connected in that sense. And then we get to just have fun. We get to celebrate the differences that bring our unique characters to the surface, and recognize, what am I supposed to help create? What am I supposed to help share?
That's right. And, the old corrupt systems darkness has within it the seed of its own self-destruction. They're going to collapse. They're going to destruct and then people won't be looking at them anymore. They'll be turning around and building the new. We don't, if you're in it and you're holding them up, you're recreating that. Because when you're in the matrix, I call it the egoic matrix. We've got the divine matrix as well, which is, the connection of God that we can flow out our beautiful divine, intentions and thoughts and feelings that go out in the divine. If you keep staying in that place, you keep it alive. You keep it alive. You keep it going. That's why awakening is so important at this time. Awakening to yourself as a wonderful creator, and awakening to the divinity within. And that's why we've got to have that balance, because it's been out of balance. As I always say this, the world's been floating and flying on, well, it doesn't fly. It's a stable realm. Yeah. But it's almost like it's just been so out of balance with, and that's why the divine masculine, this time we're all awakening. We're all evolving. But the men, they allow the women to come up, not to be over, but to join, to have the unity, to come together, and as you say, once we know about our oneness, this is what I've been learning about more than anything during this time, is about my own oneness with the divine and my own oneness with every single soul on this plane. And there is only one. We're all part of the same one consciousness. We're all part of the same one God, goddess, the Elohim, the singularity. We come down here into duality to become whole again, to find that oneness within. But instead of, we have to learn from the shadow and the dark. But instead of, saying, I don't want it, we have to embrace it and we have to integrate it, because we are dark and we are light. We are both, aren't we? Same as the divine masculine and the divine feminine. We're both.
Yes, absolutely. And one of the greatest tools that I've found for integrating the darkness is in comedy, is in having fun with this, because there are these layers of self that they're darker, but they're part of us. So if we don't let them run the show, if we don't allow them to, if we negate them, if we pretend like they don't exist, or we pretend like, oh, I've addressed my ego, I don't have one any longer. Well, then all of a sudden that ego has so much power over me because it's hiding in the darkness, just waiting for me to trip up, and it will snatch me up. But if I acknowledge it as a part of me and I just have fun with it and say, okay, I'm not going to let you be in control, but I am going to acknowledge that you're a part of me and you're a beautiful part of me. And we can have fun with that, and we can joke about that and celebrate that. And that just helps that integration happen in a much more seamless manner.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. It's not so difficult and complicated. The awakening process, the dark night of the soul can be very, very lonely, but we all will have to go through that to find our power. We're all like, pressurized. We're all like, the diamond being formed into that. And that contrast is important for us to know our strength, to know who we are, to come out as, that divine, to understand about that divinity, but it's just, it's just the oneness, to have that. I've been really getting into that, and it's just so profound, because as you said, once you understand about your oneness with all souls, you can't harm another soul. Do no harm. Because if you harm another, you'll be harming yourself, because we are all connected. There is no separateness. Everything is connected. It's astounding, isn't it?
Truly astounding. And yeah, it does become a sort of a madness when we commit harm, when we recognize this, because you're harming the self, and there's no room for that. So that's what makes this so simple. We don't have to have all of these complicated laws and rules and regulations written down, definitions, defining things, because when we recognize this connection as foundation, then right and wrong becomes very easy to see. It's inherently known within us. If I'm causing harm, if I'm doing something to someone or something else that I would not appreciate being done to me, well, then I'm causing harm. And so I should stop that. And it's really that simple.
Exactly. And what does it say? It says in the Bible anyway, God says, and I created good and evil. You know, there's only one creation, yeah? And the darkness here, I know that we have free will, but it's all in one creation. And there's only one creator. So you have to have the evil to learn about the goodness, to learn about the love. You have to have the bad to understand the good. You have to have the masculine and the feminine. You have to have the contrast in this physical reality for us to learn about, you know, those different polarities, those different ways, for us to learn that the righteous, the left brain and the right brain, we have to turn to the right to learn about that. So we have to see the good or the God even in the bad things.
Yes. You
can't hide it away. So many people just hide it away. Like they hide their shadow away. They don't want to acknowledge it, you know, and this is what we've been doing for so millennia. This is what we've been doing about the children and the trafficking, hiding it away. No, it has to be brought to the surface. It's like the darkness had to be brought to the surface for it to come to the light. And then once it's come to the light, we can build the new. We can't build the new on the darkness.
Yes, it is through that contrast that allows the greatest expression of love to unfold. And that's what we're really here. This is the greatest love story ever told. So we come from that singularity. We come from that oneness. And of course, it's beautiful to stay in that oneness. But how can you enhance our relationship with love without having a sense of separation? So we play this game where we separate ourselves, where we scatter ourselves into infinite number of pieces. And we play these games where we pretend to be evil, we pretend to be dark, we pretend to be all these things, just so that I can have this culmination process of coming back together again and reminding myself, oh, I don't really want to do that any longer. How beautiful is this love feeling? And I would only know that if, like, it's like when we experience the loss of a loved one or are away from a loved one for some time. How deep does that love truly feel in those moments where we miss somebody so much? And so that's the kind of cultivation that's happening through this experience, is it's allowing us to unfold in that way so that we can come back together and love ourselves even more deeply.
That's so true. And that's so beautiful, because we come here and experience all those things that are not love. So we know what self-love is. And self-love is God within, you know, experiencing ourselves as that.
Truly.
That's just profound, isn't it? Wow. And we was talking about the darkness, but I just wanted to just touch on because of the planets and what is happening, yeah? Because we've been living through the planet Pluto. Has been in Capricorn for 16 years of such a heavy cycle. Pluto is the planet of death and rebirth and of karma, right? So we've been going through all of these lessons, karmic lessons, of course, collectively, but also, you know, and individually. And, you know, it's been so heavy. But now I think just before the election, yeah, or around that time, Pluto went into Aquarius, or it was just after, I think. And it was so symbolic and so significant, you know, for Pluto, the heavy planet, to go into this beautiful, you know, planet of Aquarius, which is even instigating the edge of Aquarius even more. And we can all feel it so much. I mean, I personally have felt these 16 years, and it doesn't matter what I tried. Doesn't matter what I did in my outside life, nothing worked. It was just like I was being prepared. I've been in my cave for so many years, writing, doing this, doing my journey, trying to get my charity done. So many years of this darkness, you know. But finally, I can feel it. It's almost like us light workers, the spiritual, we're feeling it. It's like we are in sync with the cosmos. We're at one, we're in alignment with the planets, you know, because the 7 planets are the macrocosm of our 7 chakras, and they are chakras in themselves. Yeah. The 7 planets.
Yes.
So it's our microcosm. We are the small individual universe in alignment with the big macrocosm of the universe. And I think a lot of people I've been feeling this heaviness.
Yes, absolutely. And of course it's perfect timing. As I mentioned, we're exiting this great cycle. So of course all the planetary alignments are going to be happening in order to augment and accentuate that, because this is not just about individual awakening. This is not just about collective awakening, but this is the entire creation is designed and geared towards shifting us out of that. So energetically, everything is going to be in alignment for us to find ourselves within this. We've gone through this full period of obscurity and we're moving out of that. So it makes perfect sense why at the dawning of this new age, there would be a time period where it does seem darkest because
Darkest
the night
before the
is
dawn. It's
darkest.
always the
Exactly.
darkest before, and it's always the heaviest before the light. Yeah.
Yes. Yes, absolutely. So it's poetic in that sense. And as we love in all good stories that we listen to or watch, we love those pivotal life-changing moments where it seems like the hero can't
All
make
hope
it
is
through.
lost.
All hope is lost. The betrayal is deepest. But that's that point where they come through. And that's the magnificent turnaround, the crescendo, the climax where everything changes. And it just presents this beautiful opportunity to have that story. And ultimately, that's all we're doing. As I mentioned, this is the greatest love story ever told. So God is going to create the circumstances where that greatest story can unfold in the most magnificent, magical ways possible.
Wow. For sure, for sure. And it's just incredible. It really is. And when I was talking about that, I want to know about the atmosphere in America when President Trump won the election, because this was such an amazing shift. And as I said, it was in coincidence with Pluto going into Aquarius as well, which was and it was a massive lightness all around the world. All the patriots around the world was just, yeah, it was just, please tell us how it was in America.
Well, it was very polarizing, as you can imagine. So as you
Yeah.
mentioned, from the patriotic sense, they were very happy to see that. Um, and the contrast with that is it's still very much, and as Revelation describes, as Christ described when he was speaking about, I didn't come here to unite you, but I came here to divide you. So the truth, this revelationary period is dividing us. It's showing us where people truly stand. And there are very powerful people who are recognizing this beautiful change. And then there are those who are still clinging on to the old world and the old ways of being, and they're crying out in desperation. It's not wanting to acknowledge that they've grown attached to the shadow, and they're not wanting to let go of it. And it is unfortunate to witness that. And we did actually have a huge number of suicides in a single day during this time period
That's
because
so
just for
terrible.
that fact. It is.
That's just
But
awful.
but this is the unfortunate layer to this. And as sad as it is, it's necessary. It had to be done
Yes.
this way, as Q says. And so we have to go through this moment where all of that old gets let go. And of course, there's no ultimate sorrow because death is no end. It's simply an
Yes.
opportunity to go through and come back again. So we're moving through that and we're kind of letting all of this heaviness go. But I don't think we're out of the woods yet. We're
No.
still going to go through these moments where that pressure is going to build, this tension is going to build all the way to that final moment, that crescendo where everything can be revealed and the military can come out and
Yeah.
everything can be settled in that sense. And then
Yeah.
we still have a lot of work to do after that point, but that's what we're moving up to right now is that the sort of pressure building, the everything is set for that final thing to go.
Mm.
All of this is all of that pressure is continuing to exert because we have to get to that we have to get to kind of that rock bottom moment
Yeah.
for the world as a whole, and it has to
Yes.
implode in that sort of sense. So we
Exactly.
are moving into what may seem like a very dark time, but
Mm.
this is just because all of that darkness is coming to the
To
surface.
the
So those of us
surface.
who are so those of us who are aware know that it's necessary and we're excited to see that happening.
Yeah.
But for everyone else who's not aware, it's going to seem like the scariest time possible. It's going to seem like the most intense, life changing because it is. But it's necessary for us to go through that.
Yeah. And I really believe, in the new earth, as we come in the next, 30 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 years, as so much change will come about. So many revelations will come. So many wonderful technologies living with Mother Nature, but high tech, because we won't make the mistakes of our past, But all systems will change, but I can really see the two-party system that is in a political system that's in every single country can never work. That is the total segregation. Yeah. Light, white, black, male, female, young, old, it's always, blue, red, it's always that two party, and it won't work. I can see, and I have visions of it. Round tables, of people from all walks of life, and it's working for the government. It's volunteer based. You don't get paid for it, and you do so many hours a week, and it's all people from all walks of life, in small community led, overlooking their communities, decentralized, where it's run by the people for the people.
Absolutely. Yeah. And hopefully we won't see any sort of centralized authority in government any longer. It will simply be community led spaces. All communities will get to run and operate how they see fit. And then the organization will happen and as you describe, where we can communicate and have our cohesive workings together. If we want to have larger projects that we're working on, infrastructure that we want to build, of course, we can work together in those things. Well, moving back to the sovereigns, the individuals are truly the power, and they get to dictate and decide what happens in their own lives. And then they get to organize and communicate and how they best see fit. Yeah. So it's just a complete inversion of how we've been seeing it, where it's been top down and we're going to be going from bottom up.
That's beautiful, because it's the only way to go, isn't it?
Yes.
It's the only way to be. Wow. And wow, honestly. And and it's really funny with the astrology as well for 2025, which is a 9-year endings. It's just with the numerology, completions, and as many outdated systems collapse and the new innovative life enhancing systems of technology and spirituality emerge. So many of the planets are going forward and changing signs as well. It's such a year of change, more so than 2024 ever will be. How do you see? So, I mean, these new beginnings, how do you see them, like with the new technologies that are going to be revealed? What a time to live. I mean, I think my children's time, I just say in your life, you're going to see incredible things. But I think in the end of my life, wow, it's just going to be amazing for this new golden age.
Absolutely. Well, and I think all of our lives will be much longer than we anticipated.
Yes.
Through the unveiling of these technologies and things of that nature, and just living in alignment with our true selves, getting back to what we're supposed to be eating, how we're supposed to be living, and just not being constantly bombarded by the poisons and the noise and the unhealthy frequencies and all these things. We don't really realize just how much we've been bombarded, and it has a benefit to it, in the sense that we don't realize how strong we are as well. So we don't realize that we've been carrying this weighted backpack, and the cabal has been constantly placing, it's like the jokes with your friends where you're constantly putting rocks in their backpack as they're hiking up a trail, and they don't realize how heavy it's gotten until they get to the top. Well, that's what the cabal has been doing to us. They've been constantly placing rocks in our backpack. So we don't realize how strong we've become until we take this backpack off and we see, wow, I can move so much faster without all of that weight. And so that's going to happen immensely. But then, as you mentioned, the technology is going to be profound. Every single one of these patents that have been kept under wraps and kept away from us, they're all going to be released at once. And then it will just be up to human ingenuity and creativity to see how fast we can unveil these things, how fast we can put them into action, and which ones are going to work the best. And with this age of communication, we'll get to communicate in so many ways to where all the best ideas will rise to the surface. So certain communities that do it the best way and live the longest, those ideas will spread like wildfire, and everyone else will want to do them as well. So it will just pick up every which way. I do see that each region will kind of develop differently. Some regions will take a long time. Some regions will be very stubborn and want to stay in the old ways, and honestly, there's nothing wrong with that. If people want to stay in those ways to some degree, then as long as they're not causing harm to other people, then you can live that way. But it won't be a very long life. So those who truly embrace the longevity and embrace this new way of living will live much longer and much healthier and much happier. And so those ideas will stay and stick around and spread, as I mentioned. And so it will just be amazing to witness and see how it unfolds. It's going to be the most exciting time to travel as we see these different regions develop differently, and all the time and effort getting to be spent in creative projects and developing beautiful works and having extravagant parties and festivals and music,
Yes.
music events and things of that nature. So it'll be, yeah, I mean, there's no end to the amount of amazing things that we can dream up, and that's really our only limitation, is how big can we dream. That's the only thing that will hold us back. Resources won't be an issue any longer.
No.
It's just how
It'll
big
be
can you
funds
dream.
for enormous humanitarian projects, you know,
Yes.
and there will not be any third world countries.
No.
Debt will be
No.
forgiven.
Yes.
Other countries will come and help, you know, when the monetary system and everything goes down, you know, they won't be. You know, we will all be helping one another.
Yes.
And do you believe, because, you know, some people that I interview and stuff, I mean, I am an eternal optimist. Yeah. And I believe that heaven shall be on earth one day. We came from, in Gnosticism, they tell us that we were energy bodies at the beginning. Yeah. And then we fell. Yeah. We fell, and you know, and that's why we fell into our physical bodies. Yeah. But eventually, the more light, the more darkness that leaves, and the more lower energies, then of course the physical body becomes lesser and lesser, and you know, we become lighter and lighter, and we become into our spiritual energy body, our Merkaba, our light body, which is what Jesus resurrected himself within, you know, in his light body. But you know, some people say no, some people say no, this place is for suffering, as Buddha said. Yeah. And there is no salvation in this realm. We're in this soul trap of samsara, of the birth, death, rebirth, over and over and over again, until we leave this world, and then we can, you know, I believe in the samsara. I believe in the birth, rebirth, and the karmic wheel. But I also believe in the evolution of humanity, and that in thousands of years, everyone, you know, the veil between heaven and earth will be no more, and we will be in our light energy bodies, and we'll just be the same as heaven, and therefore heaven will be on earth. Yeah.
Yes.
How do you see that?
I see that the ideas around this being a trap are all diabolical deceptions pushed by those who want to maintain a sense of power, or those who participate in evil want nothing more than to break free of the system. They hate God. They hate this creation. They do view it as a trap. They view the firmament as something that's confining. They view the laws of morality as something the laws of karma as something that's confining. So they want to break free of all of that. So they do view it as a trap. And so if those lies permeate and we pick them up and we take that on as if this is a trap, well, then all of a sudden that becomes more true, because that's how powerful we are. That's how we're truly powerful, that whatever we believe, we manifest.
Yes.
So just in that same way, if we recognize that this is an evolutionary playground, that we're here to evolve and step into our highest and greatest potential, then we can step back into that pure heaven on earth frequency. And it's not like it's a destination that you get there. It's an ever evolving, ever unfolding movement,
Never ending.
towards never ending process, never ending journey, the never ending story. So it is this unfolding process that happens in that way. But absolutely, we can return to that in so many ways, and it even happens physiologically, as you mentioned. And I've been told that while we are experiencing a carbon-based body right now, where we came from was a silicon-based body. We did have that crystalline structure form where our actual structure of our physical body was different in order to allow more light to permeate. So we can evolve in so many different ways. So we don't need to find ourselves and feel like we're limited and feel like these things are confining, as if they're something that we have to escape from or negate to. That's actually another trap to have someone think that, oh, I just need to escape this realm. I need to get
Yes.
out of the physical body. I need to
Yes.
ascend past it. No, there's actually people say ascended masters. I heard the term the other day. What about descended masters? What
Yes.
about those who have descended here and stepped into their full physical form and want to master that to the highest degree and bring that and transform all this and everything around us in so many
That's right.
ways, to where there is no such thing as a descent or an ascent. We're just elevating everything along with us. So we have that possibility. We have that potential.
Yes, of course. And, enlightenment, ascension, we don't have to wait till we die. This is what you're saying. We can do it now. This is what the yogis told us. The yogis are telling us, through your kundalini, through your potential, your soul potential, raising we can all have that enlightenment now in the physical body. We don't have to wait until we die. And also, ascension, we can choose to, when we do pass over, we can choose to come back. You can go on to everlasting, incredible, multi-dimensional, possibilities in the multi-dimensional universe, which is the innerverse. Yeah. Or, and the different heavenly realms, which is all in our realm. It's just unbelievable. The akashic, the causal, all the different bodies, all the different, as you go up, the mental body, the emotional body, God's spiritual realm, all the different heavenly, I think there's 7 heavenly realms, and that's how we ascend. We become lighter. And then once we're one with God, the soul becomes denser, and it goes through all the different realms to become into this physical realm, isn't it?
Yeah, just to put it in a very sort of light and almost comical way, when we return to that unification with God consciousness, sometimes we get bored of that and we want to descend back into the process again, as I mentioned, to have this experience of finding love again through the loss of love. So how can we find the loss of love? Well, we have to descend and forget ourselves and forget who we are and forget everything about that, just so that we can go through that process of remembering once again. And all of that is just for that continual expansion of consciousness, because without that, there would be, with that, there's no end. There's no end to this experience. There's no end to the possibilities. It never gets old. It never gets boring.
No.
So it has that to it.
And then obviously as well, as you do that, you become a master of that, and then you help everyone else to do it.
Yes. Yes.
You become the master. You're master of your emotions, the master of your thoughts, the master of your feelings, the master of your actions, the master of your life. And then you lead by example. And then, that's just so beautiful.
Yes.
Wow.
100%.
Yeah. And the golden age refers to a period of harmony, peace, and abundance. It's a time of great awakening and heightened spiritual awareness, where we live in connection with nature, animals, and each other, and where truth and righteousness and a state of divine grace prevails. And it's an awakening on all levels. It's not just a spiritual awakening, is it? It's an awakening on every single level.
Yes.
For all people.
Yes, truly. I mean, the golden age, if we want to look at it, as I mentioned, that roughly 25,000 year cycle. So you mentioned before the age of Pisces, 2,160 years, every age, we move through the zodiac, every one of those. And that's 1/12 of the clock.
So they all add up to 26,000 years.
Yeah, roughly
the
25
zodiac.
to 26,000. Yes. And so the golden age is going to be 1/4 of that time period. That's going to be one season. that we're moving through. So we have between, depending on if you want to look at it for roughly 6,000 or 12,000 years, or 12 to 13,000 years, we have this period where everything in creation is going to be augmenting our highest evolutionary process. Everything within the light is going to be augmented the greatest. We're moving, as I mentioned, from winter into spring. So we're going through spring and summer, where everything is going to be all about abundance, growth, beautiful green, flourishing flowers. Everything's going to be colorful, vibrant. And this is happening not only on a physical level, but on a energetic level as well. And so that's important that we take full advantage of that and celebrate that and have the best of time with that. But also remember that, as in the Game of Thrones, they mentioned winter is coming. So we have to remember that winter will come again, and this, through this time, is for us to harvest in the fall and prepare for the winter, so that when the winter does come around again, we're much better prepared for it, and we don't have to fall as far down as we have this past time. And that's up to each and every one of us to take that responsibility on. And that's why it's so important that we tell these stories and remind ourselves of what happened. Why did we fall before? How did we fall into these temptations? How did we get into these traps? So that when we move through those dark ages, where inevitably the workings of creation are going to be much more challenging, much more difficult to move through, we can carry that momentum from spring and summer through fall and winter and come out the other side with a renewed sense of vitality and strength. But that's up to us. We'll see what happens at that point. We have quite some time in order to move through that. So I'm not saying to stay in fear or to worry about that, but also have that as just a sense of importance to recognize, like, why it's so important to not forget, even though everything is going to be so beautiful and blissful for this next period. Let's not forget where we come from. Let's not forget what got us here, so that we can carry that through to the next iteration.
That's right. Not to be complacent. And as you said, not to fall or rise so high. So what happens is you become balanced. You live, as the yogis say, the middle path. Where you don't get so affected by outside things, and you stay in, with all the chaos around you, you stay in your place of peace, your place of wholeness, in your balance, and you don't go woof, and you don't go vroom, and that's like all of them summer, winters, and everything, like you said, you come into one, isn't it? That equilibrium, that homeostasis, that place of true wholeness that we're all striving for. That's enlightenment to me.
And that's done through, you mentioned the rise and falls. The rise and falls are the emotional movement, which signified by the moon. And so she shows us through the full and the new moon of the rising and the falling. So how do we find the balance between? And that's the transmutational, the alchemical process, is to recognize that, no, I don't need to negate emotions. I'm not trying to hide from them or push them away or pretend like they don't exist. But how can I transmute them so that I'm not having this wide extreme of movement through them? How can I celebrate them and pour that emotional energy into something, transmute that into something powerful, into something creative? And that's the movement. I really like this sort of view of recognizing that emotion is, if you look at a sort of spiritual hierarchy, emotion is going to be the feminine quality, and it's going to be on the lower leg of the hierarchy. And then above that is going to be logic and reason, which are going to be the masculine qualities. But then above that is also a feminine quality, which is the spirit. And the spirit is trying to ask us. So she's the highest, but she's also the lowest. So she's asking us to transmute that lowest form, to not allow the emotions to move our actions. So move through the logic and reason to the spirit, but not to get stuck in logic and reason, because that's where in today's society we're dictated by the masculine sense, and they try and negate that emotions aren't important. You don't need to have them at all. So we don't negate emotions, we celebrate them, but we also don't let emotions run the show. We don't let fear run the show. We don't let our sense of, trying to find the dopamine hits. We don't let that run the show either. We let the emotions ride their wave, and we transmute them to that highest form of spirit and see where spirit is guiding us in all moments. So that's the sort of like spiritual sandwich, if you will, of finding that hierarchy within us, so that we're not going through that full huge range and swing and coming back to that balance point, and then everything is as it needs to be.
That's so true. And one of the ancient word for the goddess was sin. And the ancient word for the moon goddess was sin. Yeah. And because therefore, the moon is about emotions. Yeah. Water and the tides. And so what therefore is it to sin? To sin is to have that self-sabotage. To sin is to sin unto yourself, means to have those egoic, negative, self-destructive thoughts, feelings, and emotions. That's what it means to sin. And I believe that is the devil. That is Satan. There is no physical representation of the devil or Satan in this world. Yeah. There's only the beautiful, blissful gold stream of God, goddess. But again, it's the goodness and the evil within us. So to sin, is to sin against yourself, to sin against your emotions, to sin against the divinity within. That's sin.
Yes. Well, and we don't have to look any farther, but just look at other languages where sin in Spanish and Italian and many other language means without. So
Yeah.
when
Without
we're
God.
sinning, we're without God goodness, So when we step away from God goodness, then we are sinning. So we're missing the mark. So it's just coming back to that recognition. And yes, when we're bound by, you can boil down every sort of quote unquote negative emotion into fear of something, whether even anger, even all of that, it's fear to some degree. So if I can recognize, oh, I'm letting fear run the show, I'm sinning, I'm stepping away from myself, I'm either negating who I am or who someone else is or something else, then I can come back to recognition of connection as the foundation again, and I don't sin any longer because I'm connected to it. So I'm not without God goodness because it's all a part of me.
That's the oneness.
Yes.
It's not, it's pretty simple, really.
It is.
It just
Very
takes
simple.
time to realize it, to the self-realization of that oneness,
And it's very challenging. It's
Yes.
simple, but it's very challenging. And that's why we enjoy it, because we enjoy challenging processes. It's like you don't want to play the game that's easy. We want to play the game that's challenging. We want a game that pushes us to the limit, because that's the only way that we get better. That's the only way that we learn. So we enjoy the challenging process. Sometimes we forget our enjoyment in it because it's so challenging.
Yeah.
But if we come back to that recognition that it's all very simple, and it's simply there to challenge us so that we grow and learn and harmonize in a much greater way than we ever could have possibly imagined without that. So it's all very, very purposeful.
Yeah, definitely. That's so beautiful. And do you feel many people, I mean, I think I'll probably always ask you this because, you're on the other side. You're in the USA, I mean, are awakening at this time. I mean, it really is. A time. I feel it so much on the internet, and people and ordinary people. I mean, my children, they're always telling me, Mum, you told us this was happening, it's happening. Mum, you told us this would happen and it's happening. And I went, yeah, yeah, that's right. Because it's just, and even my children, they're also, and their friends, especially the young people.
Yeah, it's happening. It's you can gauge it just by observing, witnessing everyday conversations with people in public. I really just enjoy being in public spaces at times because I do start
Yes.
to hear people talking about certain things, and it's not, of course we can fall into sort of the pessimistic view of like, oh, why aren't people waking up more than this? But if we do that, then we sort of negate the process of recognizing just how amazing it is to see people having conversations about any form of not trusting centralized authority in government any longer. And that's ultimately what the white hats are trying to do, is they're bringing us into this place where I don't trust external authority any longer, now without some checking of it. So that's what's essential for us to get to, because that's one step closer to that individual freedom and sovereignty. And
The
that's
I
what the Great
am,
Awakening,
yes.
yes,
The
that's
I
what the Great
am, the
Awakening,
sovereign within, the sovereignty within.
yes, that's
To,
all the
to,
Great
to, to
Awakening is
live our
about.
own lives. Yeah.
Yes.
In our own
100%.
way.
Yes, 100%.
Wow. It's so beautiful. It's so
It
beautiful.
is.
So, and so, yes, the future of humanity. Let's just go on this just for a little bit, and then you can tell us about the beautiful humanitarian charity that you're involved with. So, the golden age, how do you see it?
I see just a recognition of self and recognition of self in all around, and that unfolding in the ways where we get to just explore our creative expression in whatever way that we feel called to, and so it'll be this amazing blossoming of people stepping into their potential, finding what is my unique gift to share, allowing that exploration of uniqueness, all but also in tandem unionize with the connection, so that everything that I want to explore within my uniqueness is all just to augment and accentuate the connection with everything around us. So this will look like the age where people see the greatest yield of artistic expression in all sorts of forms. We're going to see people traveling to see this beautiful world in so many different ways, and we're going to see people creating homes and homesteads and
Yeah,
communities that are just vibrant and beautiful, and growing trees that grow so much food in abundance for all to consume without needing to introduce harm to anything around, because it's all giving abundantly. We're going to see so much movement in that. And as I mentioned, it will be region specific. So there will be some regions that will resist quite a lot. There's going to be some stubbornness of people who don't want to do that, who want to hold on to the old ways. So it won't be consistent throughout. This will be a decades, perhaps centuries long process of us
yes.
to move through this.
Mm,
But the more that we step into that ourselves, the more that we can augment that. And we'll have the freedom, not only of resources, but of time to find our people, find our tribe, and step into that community in the greatest way we possibly can. So there won't be any limitations. There won't be any like confinement or people feeling like, oh, I'm just stuck in this job, or I'm stuck in this family, I'm stuck in this time, whatever. Like, you get to go and be and express however you want to. So just learning to be in that sovereign free space, it's the most exciting, amazing thing that you can possibly imagine.
wow. Yes. Following your passion and
Yes.
freedom of expression and
Yes.
contributing to the benefit of humanity while you're
Yes.
doing that. That's what it
Yes.
is, isn't it? It's just so
Yes.
beautiful. Wow.
Yes.
Oh, yes, the golden age is upon us. Ah, it's so
Yes.
beautiful. So, Justin, please tell us about the your involvement with the charity work that you've been doing, and helping out the victims of Hurricane Helene, because we all saw that and it was just absolutely unbelievable.
Yeah, thank you for the opportunity to speak on that. So I've recently been involved with this group called Foxhole Foundation. And that's foxhole with a Q instead of an O. And that's very intentional, which was a reason why I was so drawn to this group when they reached out to me and asked if we could speak about it and do a podcast together. But I was immediately in love with it because of the O replaced with a Q. So just showing that these people are quite aware in what's going on. But they also recognize that we need to step in and help right now, because even regardless of what's happening in the larger scale of things, there are people's lives that are, being affected by certain things that have happened. And you mentioned Hurricane Helene, and
Mm,
it was extremely devastating. The number of pictures and videos that I saw before actually coming into this area didn't even come close to the amount of devastation that I've seen since I've come here. It's insane. It's really quite insane to see trees just on a whole mountainside, just ripped over on their side, pulled over by nothing but wind. Wind that strong a force where it could actually twist trees around, in that sense. And then all the flooding and the mud floods that happened in these areas where houses and things were just washed away. So you have these just complete barren, devastated areas, and all the locals who have never experienced a storm to this magnitude in this area, because at least as far as what we know historically, there's never have been one. So it's just something completely unusual and abnormal for people to go through. So a lot of people are still recovering and just finding ways to live and survive through the winter as it gets colder.
Mm.
And as there was a lot of attention on maybe the first couple weeks, that attention has started to die down, and people are thinking like, "Oh, it must have already been addressed." And in some ways, there have been a lot of relief efforts, and yes, there's been a lot of repairs to roads, and there's been a lot of wonderful work that has happened. But there's still so much work that needs to be
Wow.
done, and so many people that are left without and can't take care of themselves and don't have homes. So that's what was really attractive about this group, the Foxhole Foundation, because they're committed to helping as many ways as they can. The founder, Jeff, he lives a couple hours away, and his property got hit pretty bad by the storm as well. Fortunately, his home and everything were okay, but trees and everything were blown apart on his property. But he's been making trips, driving 2 to 3 hours consistently to come down and help people in the area. And he's basically been living here for the past 2.5 months. So he's been working tirelessly, donating his own personal funds to cover costs and everything. And so that's why he wanted to set up this organization, just to help draw more attention to this area and draw more attention to what's been happening. So there's a small group of people that are all committed to helping out with that and doing whichever makes the most sense to help people that are actually here. Because not only do you have those efforts, but you also have local corrupt governments that are doing everything they can to stop people from receiving help, which has been really, really disappointing to hear about. Like we had just for example, there was a whole Amish community that donated several, they spent time and effort and resources to build these little shack homes on people's property so that they would have a warm place to live
Yeah.
while they rebuild their physical home on their property.
Which would
But
take
then
a long time. Yeah.
but then the local government came and said that these shacks don't meet code and nobody can live in them.
That's
So they would,
ridiculous.
yeah, it is ridiculous. So they would prefer people to live in tents in the freezing cold as opposed to living in a very stable, very secure shack, very well built. They're very well built structures, but because they don't meet code, some arbitrary nonsense, they're not allowing people to live in them. So it's stuff like that. There've been other instances where local hotels aren't allowing locals to stay in them. Anyone who lives within 75 miles, even if they're paying for the rooms, they don't allow locals to stay there. So they had another instance where they tried to put a family up into a hotel for a week. They paid for it. As soon as these locals got there, they turned them back. They wouldn't let them stay there because they were locals. So it's just absurd things like that you can't help. But that, like, there's not really any other room but nefarious behavior as to why these are happening.
Yeah.
And of course, it's a very mineral rich, abundant area. So there
Yeah.
is the prospect of corporate interest and people coming to try and sweep in and take advantage of the situation. So as we know, the white hats are in control at the very top levels, but they do have to allow the corruption to be exposed at the lower levels so that we see firsthand. You can't tell the people, you must show them. So the people are having to go through this process of having to see that's kind of stuff has been happening. So this group has been amazing to try and help out with that. And last week we gave $800 cash to 17. It just worked out in that sense. 17 different families. We gave $800 cash. And these families were names given to us by a local fire chief and a local pastor who had established and said, these are the families who need the most help. These are the people that need the most help. And so it wasn't through them applying for anything. So there was no room for any sort of people being dishonest to try and get money or anything like that. And so it was a huge surprise for them, for us to show up at their door and say, hey, we've heard that you're in need. Here's some help. Merry Christmas. And so it was just amazing to get to help out in that way. And that's just the beginning of where we want to do and how we want to help out. So since then they're really trying to establish an area in the area locally where they can set up camp, where they can set up some campers to house locals, but also house volunteers who want to come in and help clean up in the area. So any which way that people want to help, is wonderful. That you can find their website at foxholefoundation.org, and that's foxhole with a Q, so FQXHOLE foundation.org. And that's where you can help to donate, or to even find ways that you can help pitch in if you want to volunteer yourself directly. So it's a wonderful group of people. They truly just are constantly giving. They donate so much of their own funds to cover costs. So everything that goes to their foundation is going directly to the people to help in some way. So it's a wonderful group to be involved with.
And that's just the beautiful example of what people are going to be in the golden age. This is golden age now, coming in and helping our brothers and sisters when they're all in need. This is what we're here for, to be of service to humanity.
Absolutely.
Thank you for all of the work that you're doing, Justin. It's so wonderful. And thank you for all of your divine wisdom that you always give us, about this beautiful shifting consciousness and awakening and, golden age that we're all coming into. So thank you for being on the Great Awakening Show again.
Thank you, Joanne. Thank you for your commitment to continue